Yeah, let's do it.
So who are we? Who's jumping on the line later?
Jamison Raymond.
Jamison Raymond. We are recording, by the way.
All right.
Just to let you know. Well, before Jamison jumps on, tell the good, fine folks that are listening in their car ride home or possibly on the bathroom toilet listening to this podcast, because I have no doubt there are some people that are probably listening to this while doing their business. Who you are.
Perhaps on a nice casual stroll.
They could be. A nice casual walk around the park.
Yes.
With
on
their
a beautiful day.
Their 2 children and their 7 dogs.
7 dogs.
Well, everybody says 2.5 children, one of those being a dog of some sort. I like to go the next step out. I like to say 7 or in the double digits. Just a ridiculous amount of dogs.
Well, my name is Brian Wyrick, and I can no longer take my dog on a walk.
Why?
He slipped 2 discs a few months ago, so he's still recovering.
What kind of dog is he?
He's a beagle.
Oh,
wait. He's black and white.
Okay.
There's definitely some beagle in there somewhere, but usually when people ask what breed, we just say black and white.
Because that's a real breed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we thought about getting the DNA test, but we realized that I believe those. You know what I'm talking about, the things.
Oh yeah.
I believe that if you send in, whatever you have to send in to get your dog DNA, that it just always comes back collie.
I could see that.
Or like whatever dog you want it to be, they'll just send back a frame certificate that says collie or chocolate lab, and you're like you're holding this small little.
You're holding a pug.
This small little pug Chihuahua mix thing, and you're like, I guess a chocolate lab.
Oh, well, that's not what I thought at all.
90%. Oh, what is that?
It's that same ringtone over and over again. How's it going, Jamison?
It's good. How are you?
We started recording just to let you know.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Welcome.
I don't like starting things from the very beginning. I've always liked jumping in halfway through.
I like randomly calling people just midway through something and saying, "And I'm here now."
This is the 3rd time today that I've called in randomly to a podcast. So
really?
No.
Oh. I was like, this is an outstanding Thursday for you.
Man. I'm just excited that all of your listeners now get to hear my Metalocalypse death phone ringtone.
Yes.
So
I'm sure one person, that guy that's probably sitting on the crapper, is going to be like, "This is amazing."
Hey, we have a fan that his email address is I can't obviously tell you his email address on the air, but let's just say that he's a Metalocalypse fan, and when I sent him his copy of Henchmen, I drew a picture of Swiss-Gar on there for him. He was very thankful.
Are you an artist? Do you like drawing, Brian?
I like to draw. I do. I don't know that I would consider myself an artist, but my parents would.
Do they still have... would you send them something from Metalocalypse? Oh, my goodness.
Come on, say it again. Do it.
Metalocalypse.
There you go.
Good. Gravy
Like
train.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that they would really know what the hell
You should
it
send
was.
them something so they can frame it.
They have plenty of frame stuff. Actually, the last thing in the world they want is more of my artwork now. That they send it back with me every time I go to visit them.
They don't even open it.
See, the thing that sucks about art school is when you go to art school, you have to do all these projects, and there's always a project where some professor is like, you have to make a giant painting, like a giant mixed media painting or something, and one of the requirements will be that it has to be 7 feet tall for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's always some project like that.
I never went to art school. I don't have that gift. I don't have.
You
that
don't really
talent.
think about it when you're.
I have
in school.
lots of other talents, but that's not one of them.
You don't really think about it when you're in school, but you're like, okay, I'll make this thing, and it's usually just they're teaching you to have to do all the like crappy part of being an artist. Like you have to build the canvas, stretch your canvas, and do all those things, and it has to be at this big scale. It just pushes you out of your comfort zone or what have you, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, I have my parents keep trying to get me to take this giant mixed media painting thing that I did in college home with me, and you guys have an attic and I don't, so and frame it, put it up on the wall. I don't know, it's great.
Listen,
right?
I don't want to use the word free storage too loosely, but You guys have that ability to just store stuff. My grandparents were like that too. Like everything went up to the attic.
Yeah.
The attic is where everything was found to the moment that they moved out.
So I did some exploring, and Jamison, you'll appreciate this. So Jamison and I grew up together.
Okay.
So this whole comic book Henchmen started with Jamison sending me an email saying, "Hey man, I want to make a comic book. Do you want to draw it?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I want to draw it. I would love to draw a comic book. I've always wanted to be a comic book artist." And I'm not a very good comic book artist. So so we started the project, and I think my arrangement, Jamison, you can quote me if I'm wrong, is this would have been towards the end of 2012, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to start drawing this thing." We designed the characters, did some concept art, and I remember it being around Christmas time, and I said, we set some sort of deadline, like if I don't have, the first half of this first issue drawn by the end of the year, then we're going to have to find another artist, and I'll do that. And so that deadline kind of came and went, and then around the same time, Brian Rowe, who lives here in Indianapolis, and is one of the guys behind R Squared Studios, who they publish a couple of really really awesome comics, as well as Brian and Rhonda colored our one shot. They also do a lot of work for IDW. They're here in town, and I met Brian. We had actually had this weird moment of reconnecting, and Brian actually and I used to hang out when I first moved to town in like the year 2000. Like we all had mutual friends, and we used to just hang out and drink beer.
2000.
Right.
That was horrible. That
And
was so bad.
He ended up Ryan, the artist, Ryan Howe, the artist on the books that he was working on at the time. Brian connected Ryan to us, and Ryan is an amazing artist, and his style really fit what we wanted, and he's also just a fantastic storyteller. So in the back of our first Henchman one shot, you can see a little bit of my artwork, for better or worse. But
which ones are yours? Are these yours?
The ones that look weird, those are mine.
The ones that don't look anything like the rest of the rest of the
the ones
book.
that I feel like it should be pretty easy for you to figure out.
They're not that far off. I mean,
I'll tell you this: sitting in your sketchbook while you're watching TV and sketching out character designs,
yeah.
for me, it's pretty easy to do. When it comes to actually putting them in the book and drawing a story and telling it, drawing stuff consistently, it's just the last decade after I graduated from college, was not spent honing my skills. It was spent typing on keyboards and using, designing websites and things of that nature. So, yeah, my skills did not improve. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
So was it you?
I went off on a crazy tangent.
No, it's okay.
We were talking about my dog.
Yeah,
I just woke up. I don't know what happened.
It's all good.
Oh my God, are we gonna be talking about dogs? I can talk about mine.
Yeah, we were talking. So I don't, Jamison, you don't know this. You haven't seen my dog. I was telling Jared that my dog had have back surgery. So he slipped 2 discs. Man, you're laughing at this. You're mean.
What could your dog have possibly done that was so strenuous that it slipped a disc?
Have you ever seen my dog run? He before surgery he ran sideways. I mean, I don't know how it's.
Lift with his legs. If you have to lift something less heavy, lift with your legs.
Yeah, he's a
squat,
dog.
thrust upward with your legs.
So tell your dog that.
He's a dog. I mean, it was actually pretty sad.
What's your dog's name?
Jack.
Jack. Then you just say, "Listen, Jack, you're screwing around too much, man. You've got to start lifting with your legs."
So it was pretty sad though, because he went down to the basement, and this is kind of where my lair is at home, full of plenty of copies of Henchmen books and other things, and
everything other than your
wouldn't-
artwork, which
he
is over at
wouldn't-
your parents' house.
Yes, exactly.
Sure.
He wouldn't come up the stairs. He refused, and we didn't know why, so we left him down there. And the next morning, he still wouldn't come up, so we carried him up the stairs. And by the end of that day, he couldn't use his hind legs; like he was just kind of dragging himself around. So he had to have this crazy emergency surgery so he could walk again.
Oh my goodness!
But I will admit, it is kind of funny sometimes to watch him, because he's got so much energy, because he's a young dog, and that's why we went through the surgery. And but he is like, he thinks he's back to 100%. So he will run around the yard like as fast as he can, but he doesn't quite have full control of his back legs. So obviously people listening aren't going to be able to see this visual, but if these are his 4 legs, he'll run, and his hind legs, like if he's going too fast, he'll try to stop, and his hind legs will just kind of keep going. And it's like, in like Toy Story, that like the Slinky dog.
Yeah.
Like it's like that. Like so he'll like run at the wall, like after a squirrel or something, run at the fence out in the backyard, and he'll try to stop, and his hind legs will swing out behind him, and he'll like flip over.
So it's
and
like
roll
those
out and
costumes
pop
of like a giant cow where it takes 2 people and there's a person in the
It's
front and the person
exactly
in the
like
back.
that, yes.
And the person in the back just doesn't quite understand what the guy in front's
It's
doing.
exactly like that.
Okay,
That
all
is
right.
that is how my dog walks now. It's like watch it. Yes, it is.
So you're just going to
exactly like
rename your dog from Jack to Top Secret. You're just going to completely change his name to fill in.
He has the whole point here is that this all came about with you saying like people listening where they're listening to the podcast. I can't take my dog for a walk because he can't really.
Because
walk
half
very
your dog will be done about a half an hour before the other part. Okay, that's all right. Jamison, you said you have a dog?
Yeah, I do.
So, well, I mean, you're welcome to talk about your dog for a little bit. We have a very interesting setup for those that are listening. Jamison he's literally called in to the show. This has never been done before. Jamison is an iPod or as an iPhone that's just sitting right next to the recorder, and we've got him connected into the system. So he's going to sound a little different than Brian and myself.
Now, this really is this is Jamison.
He's an artificial intelligence.
Yeah. I don't know if maybe I wasn't clear before we started, but yes, I've created a artificial intelligence that writes comic books.
Oh, just like Gary was talking about in issue 2 about the artificial intelligence that created the henchbots. At the very end of was it book 2 or book 1? Book 1 or book 2? Gary was having a conversation. By the way, you can find out more about this in iHenchbot.
I think you're talking about the intelligence in the henchbot.
I don't know.
I know what you're referring to.
Yeah. See, now
you said it backwards too. So many people do that, and I knew I should have designed that differently. So it's Henchmen,
iHenchbot.
iHenchbot.
Well,
it just looked cooler on the top.
Was that
noted for next time.
Was that your call or was that
Yes,
Jamison's call?
That was my call.
How do you feel about that, Jamison?
About the positioning of the title?
Yeah, the title with the iHenchbot being above Henchmen.
That's
Book
something
2.
that early on I decided, and actually once Ryan Howe came on and started actually doing the art, I learned really quickly how to just kind of let go of my particular minute visions of how everything should be. I'm pretty okay and laid back about how the story is presented. So I don't like the idea of being one of those prima donna creators, especially at this point in the game. I have no reason to have any kind of absurd attachment to certain creative choices.
So he's saying I could have put iHenchbot, backwards and on the bottom. He
Yeah,
been cool with it.
He could have put Target presents Henchbot by
You could have just
random.
You could have just rewritten it, Brian, if my name was on it. I'd be like, all right.
Noted.
So are you a? I don't know. I've noticed that writers are a little bit more controlling when it comes to working in collaboration with artists and colorists and whatnot. And I don't think I'm spoiling this for anybody, but the main book series, episodes 1 through 6, are all black and white. It's just that prelude is done in full color. But Jamison, you had mentioned this just a couple seconds ago that you just kind of had to let go of some stuff and say, hey, do with it what you need to. In the creative process, are you normally more of this is what my vision is, this is what I was aiming for, this is what I'm thinking, go this direction, or are you literally hands off?
It depends. When it comes to so when I write, when I write the scripts, I lay out the panels. The only thing I don't tell Ryan what to do is where to place the panels on the page or how large to make the panels. So I do a breakdown of what happens in each panel, and then the dialogue in the panels as well. And then Ryan just writes those. So as I'm writing it in my head, I'm almost to an extent reading the book as I'm writing it. I'm visualizing it, seeing how it's going to play out and everything in my head. So that I let go of. So like so in my head, in issue 3, there's a shot that I'm thinking of where on the script it says Gary peers through the legs of Numbskull and sees his daughter. When I envision it in my head, it looks totally different than the way that Ryan drew it. But that's Ryan's artistic choice. I'm not going to yell at her. I'm not going to throw a fit about it not looking exactly like it is in my head. When it comes to character development, I'm sure Brian can attest to this. Sometimes I will argue over the smallest detail of the way a character reacts or the dialogue that a character says at any given moment. Sometimes I can let it go, but I feel it's probably about 60% of the time I will not throw a fit, but argue my point about why I chose to do something, take it in a certain creative direction.
Yeah, it's been really... I feel like we put a really good team together for this book.
Yeah.
And what's awesome about working with Ryan is, so, the way the book was created is, Jamison and I created the book and we brought Ryan in to illustrate the book. And it's really, I think, been good for us to work that way. Excuse me. You might have to fix that in post.
No, we don't do any editing now.
I don't know what just happened.
Nothing happened.
I feel like I just had a stroke. I smell burning. Is that all right? Do you guys smell that?
So what's really awesome about that arrangement is that Ryan is so good about design, helping us create the look of the characters. Like I said, I did concept art for a lot of them and said, hey, here is kind of how I envisioned this character looking, how we kind of created it, especially on the first issue. But as we've started to work together, Ryan just creates these amazing looking characters based on such little ideas. Like aluminum foil is a great idea, great example. He's a hero, and it's like he's kind of like this Zorro guy made out of metal. He's an android, like a Three Musketeers kind of thing. Like it'll look really cool. And what's awesome, and a lot of this might be too just the kind of because of the kind of book we have. Like Ryan nailed it the first time. The first time we saw him, we're like, perfect. And he's not a central character. He kind of comes and goes in the book and the series, but it's just I feel like we're really lucky to be working with someone who can just like understand what we're looking for, and like based on the kind of book that we've created. And Ryan's like one of the versions of Headpen that I did for the first book, and it's in the back of the one shot. I had drawn this crazy big robot thing for Headpen that was like it had like tentacles, and it was kind of like a weird Iron Man Dr. Octopus thing, and it was and then we all started, when Ryan came on, we started talking about it, and we're like, maybe we should go more this like Iron Man-esque like suit, and he's like, something like this, and sends us a file, and we're like, yeah, that's it. Like, I don't even know why we bothered explaining it to you so much, because you apparently you can read our minds.
Yeah.
And so, but what's really cool,
as long as it has that environmental disposal system built into it, it's all good to go. Perfect.
One of the things, though, that to Jamison's point is, the way Jamison and I work together is, Jamison creates a script outline, a story outline. We kind of work together and collaborate on that, and then Jamison writes all the dialogue. And it's been really interesting because I feel like I'm in this great middle spot where Jamison, as Jamison creates these characters and has these ideas, to his point, he's, doing a verbal sketch of every panel and has this vision of how it looks. And it's like you can't necessarily communicate that in words all the time. You can try, but what's cool is I'm in this this nice middle ground of like Jamison's got probably an idea in his head of what it should look like, but knows not to over-explain it, because and then I'll read it, the script, have my own view of what I think it's probably going to look like, and then Ryan comes back with his interpretation of that, and it's always been better than what we thought it was going to be, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Did you? I guess who was the initial? Jamison, was it you who had this idea for this premise for the book?
Yeah. I'd written it several different times. I'd written it as a short story. I had done a couple kind of ideas or conceptions for how I might do it as a webcomic. At one point, it was going to be just like a 3 or 4 panel webcomic that I would do like once a week. I wanted to write it as a movie script at one point. I tried a web series script briefly. And then, I got with Brian and was like, hey, man, I'm like halfway through this comic book script. I think I actually told you in the first time we talked about it that I had it done. That was a lie. And that's kind of a lie that I feel like I've continued through the project. And, no, it's done. It's totally done. And then I go and work on it really hard and get it all done until I'm about halfway done. But anyway, so I had like half the script done when I initially talked to Brian. But I had been telling that same story so many times in so many different ways that I had all of kind of the beats planned out, and it was just a matter of kind of getting it down.
Would you say the style, and I really don't want to give too much away, so if you feel that I'm going in that direction, I don't want to spoil the book for anybody, but you already talked about...
We should just have a conversation about whatever it is you're going to talk about, and then we'll just have you... beep it out.
Just.
So you're like, tell me a little bit about issue 4. Where
so when this happens, is that going to be huge for later on down the road? But no, for aluminum foil, I guess what I'm trying to get at is there is about a 3, maybe a 4-page section of the book that has Gary. For some reason, I almost said Carl. I don't know why Carl jumped in my head, but has Gary. And Gary, for those that are listening that have never read the book before, Gary is the main character. Has him and a couple of his henchmen buddies behind a car talking about aluminum foil, talking about the robot / android, and it's so conversational that you kind of feel like you're just right there, and it's like one of those things that if I was stuck behind a bus or whatnot, and you heard this conversation going on back and forth, is that your style? Jamison is more conversational, because that's very different than than a Justice League or Batman book or whatever, which seems to get more into the verbal, detailed organicness of moving the story along as quickly as possible. It felt like you were okay. It felt like you were okay just living in that moment and just saying, no, this isn't focused on Stryker. This isn't focused on their characters, but they are now the supporting characters rather than the main character. And the supporting characters have these, weird conversations and it's almost comical of, the argument of android versus robot or whatnot else. But is that your style, or did you have to venture out to kind of capture that?
I don't know that I have a particular style yet. The book, as a writer, the book, that's definitely the style I'm going for. What I really want the book to kind of capture is this idea that these are just dudes that live in a world where superheroes and supervillains battle every day. So there's nothing astonishing about an android and a guy who shoots microwaves from his fists battling each other in the street and overturning cars and while they're trying to rob banks. So you wouldn't necessarily be... I think that's part of the comedy in it, too. It's not a laugh-out-loud book, but I definitely have tried to write some sort of satirical conception of the superhero genre. So that's part of it, that they're supposed to be these real guys that are in these extraordinary circumstances, but because they don't find them extraordinary, we don't either. Or maybe it's even reversed, where we're so, as avid comic book readers, we're so used to the superhero genre that we don't ever look and think about how weird it is that a guy that got bitten by a radioactive spider is swinging through the street, dodging electrical bolts by a guy made out of pure energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a commentary, I think, on the reader being there's nothing I could tell in a superhero story about superheroes and supervillains fighting that the average comic book reader hasn't seen a million times before. But what I can do is transpose that casualness that we read that stuff with onto these guys. That it might be more interesting to listen to a couple dudes have a Kevin Smith-esque conversation about the difference between androids and robots behind a car as they're dodging gunfire.
So a few of my favorite things about our book and the project in general. One of the things that just when Jamison first came to me and said, "Hey, I want to do this comic book. Do you want to help?" I was like, "Well, yeah, this is great, and I love this idea." And I don't know why, but I've always had an affinity towards these sort of behind the scenes books, and the one that always comes to mind is like the first one that I really saw was Marvel's. So
yes, I was actually just thinking about that.
Where it's just some dude. He's a photographer, if I recall, right?
Yeah.
I need to reread it. It's been a while.
Yep.
So he's a photographer working for the Daily Bugle, right? Did I do that right? There's a Daily Bugle.
No, it was the Bugle. Yeah, because it was Marvel
Bugle.
Universe.
Marvel. I always get worried that I've got it backwards. I say Daily Planet and lose all the cred I don't have. I don't need to go into cred debt. But I love that book, and I love that idea of just like, and what I love even more and is just the idea that there's this big story that you're used to seeing happening here, and then this is the behind the scene things. And I can't think of any examples, but I know that there are films and there are television shows that do this, and I always love these episodes, right? So, for instance, Lost, right?
Okay.
The second season of Lost, where they just basically rewind the clock, right? And they're telling this entire other story. Maybe it's the third season, I don't know. Like the guy in the hatch. What's his name? Jameson. What was the guy in the hatch's name?
I never watched Lost.
Neither did I.
All right. Well, all right. Never mind. Hopefully, some people who listen to your show have watched Lost.
That one guy said,
There's
about the time that I was going to watch Lost was the time that someone was like, and then a polar bear showed up, and I was like, on a tropical island? I'm never watching this show. They have no idea what they're doing.
polar bears don't live in the tropical islands. They're totally
right.
wrong.
Well, you should watch.
No artistic direction. These guys are just writing themselves in a corner.
You both should watch it because I'm jealous that you haven't watched it and you get to experience it yourself.
But we know the ending.
Well, that was stupid. Why'd you do that?
Everybody knew it. It was like before the episode was even shown. It's very rare to keep something spoiler free in today's society, even when it comes to something as simple as a television
just
show.
Pretend like you haven't read it.
All right. So what is this show, Lost, that you talked about?
You know the ending of our book, and you haven't read everything.
Well, that's true, but...
Oh, man, I just spoiled that, too. That was our master plan.
Oh, no! The secret behind the curtain is not...
Oh, no. What's that, Jameson?
Wait, our book has an ending?
Yeah, apparently.
Well, you say that you have one, but we don't know if that's really true or not.
Nope, we don't know. You'll have to buy issue 6 to find out. So anyway, what I was trying to say is, like, Lost is a good example. There's been some movies I think have done this role too. It happens in Doctor Who every once in a while, where you have this sort of like, you tell this story, and then you kind of start over and you tell the story from a different angle.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things that if we had unlimited time and budget and all sorts of things, it would be really fun, I think, to create like a it'd be fun to create like an aluminum foil book. Like a one-shot or something where him thwarting microwave happens within the book. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I love that sort of, like, interconnected sort of, like, behind-the-scenes thing. It's one of the things probably why I do... I love time travel stories where someone goes back in time and they interact with some sort of actual thing that happened in reality, but they tell a story that could have happened, but probably didn't happen, if that makes sense.
I can follow that.
It's funny, on another note...
It's a very complicated thing to do, though, and to do correctly, and I think that's why you don't see it often.
It's funny. So I just recently watched Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards. I haven't seen it, and it was a Netflix watch not too long ago. And it's funny, when I watched it, it seemed like that movie had just come out, and then I realized that it was actually like 2012, I think.
Yeah,
when
it was
came
a
out.
few years ago, maybe a little bit more.
I think it
than
was
that.
because Brad Pitt was just recently in some other like World War II movie with tanks. Something. What was that?
Tank Girl? No? Is that?
Tank Girl was a much longer ago, and Brad Pitt was not in it.
Okay.
What was that? What's that movie he was just in with? He's in a tank, like Fury or something like that.
Nick Fury? Was that right? Nick Fury?
Anyway, it doesn't matter. But what's interesting about that movie is the whole time I was watching it.
Justice Nick Fury, Law of the Peace,
Have you seen Inglourious Basterds?
Gunslingers of the West. I'm sorry, where are we at?
Have
Who
you
are
s-
you?
have
What's
you-
going on right now?
Have you seen Inglourious Basterds?
I have. I
Okay.
have.
So,
But I saw it when it came out.
So the majority,
1987.
so the majority of the time that I was watching that movie, I hadn't read anything about it. I just knew that it existed and people liked it. And I was like, great. And it was fun. I somehow, to your earlier point about Lost, I seem to, my superpower is that I have some sort of ability to like not spoil things.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know how, but like I will, like somehow I don't, like I've not watched,
Daredevil?
I haven't. I've only watched the first episode. So, but like I know nothing about that. I've not watched Game of Thrones. I know nothing about that. And there's a few things that.
He's blind. Sorry.
Oh shit.
I know. You were
Anyway,
gonna find out
I'm
sooner
off
than
on a
later.
tangent. My
No,
point
you're
here is
good.
the whole time I was watching Glorious Bastards, I was sitting there thinking like is this happening in like actual events?
Okay.
And it really wasn't until the end of the movie where I was like, oh, this is like an alternate reality.
Yeah.
When like they should I spoil it for your listeners?
Sure. You gave him.
Yeah, I mean,
Spoiler. there.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I mean when they like kill Hitler at the end and everything blows up and the war's over, it's like, oh shit.
That didn't happen.
That's
in
not
real.
how that I've been lied to.
These
My whole-
textbooks are totally wrong. We should demand a refund. That's what I vote.
But it was kind of fun though that I didn't realize that because it ended up giving me this sort of it was almost like an extra like surprise. I was like,
Sure.
oh, it isn't real. It isn't happening in that behind the scenes kind of world. And I felt like he did that very well, where it was like it almost could have happened.
But almost all of Tarantino's movies are in that other universe.
Yeah,
I don't think there's one, with the exception of maybe Pulp Fiction. But the rest of everything that he's got, I don't think any of that, I don't think that he deliberately says, oh no, this is in,
yeah.
our Earth and on our universe. I think it's, no, this is Tarantino-verse and anything.
Yeah.
I think that if he did all of his movies, he could probably chronologically say, oh no, all of this actually happened in my universe through these different time frames.
That would be kind of interesting if there was
He's going to do a box set, and I guarantee you it's going to be like Quentin Universe or something like that.
Quentin Nooner.
Quentin Universe. Yeah. Make fun of me for not being able to say Apocalypse or whatever it was that was earlier. Metalocalypse.
There we go.
Well, nice.
Tarantinoverse.
Yeah, Tarantino-verse.
Tina,
We got to copyright all of this, so that way if he does jump on the bandwagon, we've got it under control.
So
I'm sure that'll
for those of you that are still listening,
I'm sorry.
we have a comic book. It's called Henchmen.
They do. We've talked.
And it's about a guy who loses his job and starts to work for a henchman. Or starts to work as a henchman, I'm sorry, for a whole cascading cacophony of villainous villains. And yeah, the 6th issue is out in, what is that? A couple weeks?
Yeah.
Not this week.
Today-
I keep thinking it's the end of June already, but it's not.
It's not. It's smack dab
It's
in
the
the middle.
Wednesday before the end of June, whatever that is. The 22nd, I believe.
Yeah.
I feel like a terrible publisher.
I've got a special advanced preview copy here that I'm going to be able to read through and
Spoil for everyone.
spoil. I'm going to read this and I'm going to periscope the entire time that I read it. That way everybody can watch live and be like, "Oh my goodness, I never knew that was like that."
So we are. This last issue wraps up iHenchbot, which is a 6-issue miniseries we started in January. So a little more history on the book. As I mentioned before, Jamison and I got together. We went to so James and I went to high school together. I didn't tell you that story. We played Dungeons and Dragons together and lots of other geeky role playing game things. I think I was the game master for our Star Wars game. So if you need to know anything about the Star Wars universe as it existed in the late '90s, I will know. Now that
there's hilts on lightsabers.
Everything I've known is off the table now. But.
It will always exist. The EU will always exist that way. Just because Disney bought it does not give them the right to come in and trample all over my childhood. So
yeah,
you can rewrite.
Hey,
you can rewrite the Grimm's fairy tales, but you cannot rewrite Star Wars. I am so sorry.
You can feel the anger coming through the phone, and on my table here, it is shaking from.
I'm with you, Jamison, but it kind of does give them the right to do that.
They spent, what, was it like $50 billion?
They can do whatever they want. They don't have to acknowledge it.
That's fine. I mean, George Lucas could do whatever he wanted to. We thought that was going to be great. And
Han Solo's married now? I mean, come on.
Come on. But that, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen there. I saw that. That was...
Everybody...
I will say this. Star Wars is my kryptonite. If my superpowers did not spoil anything, Star Wars stuff always seems to get through. Like, I haven't read the StarArs comics, but for some reason I know everything's going on in them.
Well, and I think it's kind of commonplace. They have to bring Star Wars up to times.
It's a damn Newsarama. The Newsarama's learned the BuzzFeed way to write headlines. So
they
I click
have.
through on them all. It's this new revelation will change your life in a list of things from only kids in the 90s will remember. Like, holy shit, I have to read this article. Han Solo is married.
Hey, you ride along with Chewbacca for long enough, you're gonna get the hookup.
I guess so.
I love that Facebook thinks that the idea that Han has a wife while he's hitting on Leia is supposed to blow our mind, but in reality, in the continuity.
No. I like in reality because where we live is totally fake.
In Tarantino-verse.
A month and a half before we find out Han Solo has a wife, Leia was making out with her brother. Like, that's much worse. Like, the idea that she is now interested in a married man is way better than the fact that she was interested in her brother,
I mean, it could
whether she knew it or not.
It could just be that. What? It could just be that Princess Leia is like Carrie Fisher is Princess Leia. Like.
Princess Leia is actually cooked out of her mind and just a train wreck.
I mean, like maybe that wasn't actually in the script and it just happened, and they're like, "Shit, we got to work this out."
All right, how are we gonna do this?
I mean, Carrie Fisher was here in town, in Indianapolis, in February, and she's like throwing glitter on everyone.
It wasn't pretty at all.
That would be mind blowing if they revealed that Han Solo is actually a codependent enabler that just like gets in these destructive relationships and like he's just this withered man on the inside. That would be mind blowing.
Well, it's kind of funny as an adult.
He's just like a coke transporter, and she just jumps on board because she has to get her fix. Well, and now she's stuck with him.
Like, have you guys ever watched them? Like, now that I have kids and I've watched the Star Wars movies, and like this happens with a lot of movies where you watch them and you're just like, you start to think about the reality behind all these things, and you're like, and everything does just become way more screwed up.
Oh yeah.
Where you're just like, so wait, let me take the premise of Star Wars and like really think it out, and you start to look at each character and you start to think of like, if that was my kid, like how disappointed I'd be. So you know what I mean? So now to be fair, like if Luke and Leia were my kids, I would be a pretty crazy dad anyway, because I'd be Darth Vader. But
true.
But the whole point here is, so it's like, so let me get this straight. Everything was kind of okay, right? Like, so there was the Republic in the world, and then this senator like did some stuff and like, you know, did what politicians do and had some master plan, then took over the world and killed all the Jedi, and then there's a rebellion, right? So there's kind of the classic question of like, why did the stormtroopers go from being like pretty badass to like all of a sudden they're like stealing from people and being really terrible soldiers? It's like, but I don't know. There's probably some reason for that that's not quite in canon. But then when you really start to get like the Star Wars movies that we know and love, like you've got this whiny guy from a farm that like just totally like decides that he's going to go on a trip with a complete stranger Like comes home to find
a much older guy that he doesn't even really know is real.
Yeah, and then like his family gets killed, and we know from like the behind the scenes stuff, right, that like right before then he was about ready to go to the academy, right? Like he was going to go learn to be a pilot.
Sure.
So it's like I'm going to go to college, okay? Like I've got it all planned out, but my my mean uncle doesn't want me to go. He wants me to stick around the farm. So then like I met this old dude that knew my dad, but he's kind of weird and creepy, and he gave me a lightsaber. He gave me a loaded gun. He was like, "Hey, check this out. It's your dad. Don't kill anybody." Then I went home, and my uncle was dead. Like someone came and like torched my house.
Yeah.
And so
the uncle that raised you, for all intents and purposes, is your father.
Yeah. And then I'm just like,
right.
Oh shit, that's weird. Hey, old man, like, want to get out of here? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But like, why didn't he call? Like, he obviously wasn't like a rebel then. Like, he was gonna go to the Imperial Academy to learn to be.
He was going to go
the
quote unquote
right
steps. He was going to do things.
So, like, but why didn't he call the cops? Now, granted, we know that basically the cops were the ones that torched the house.
Sure.
But I would just think that like it seems strange to me that all of a sudden he would do that. And then, like, not just be like maybe grieve for a minute and then go on to the academy, but he's going to follow this weird guy. But whatever. So that's kind of a weird life decision. But then, like, you think about Han Solo, and it's like, I love Han Solo. He's a cool character, and he's a cool guy. But when you think about it, it's like you've got a princess, right? Like a career politician that's grown up. And she's just all of a sudden going to be like, hey, like, I don't know. Like coke dealer, like he was a coke dealer.
Yeah,
I mean,
he was a smuggler. He said that he was a smuggler.
His job was to smuggle. Like like write Star Wars in like real life today. Like this guy's job was he has a boat or something,
and he gets people from Mexico into the United States.
Yeah, or like drugs. Right, he's a coke mule. Right, I don't know. Whatever.
Well, the drugs are in the people, right, so that way,
whatever. Yeah. So he's got his boat with his cargo and his stuff. And I mean, this guy would be like. Shouldn't he just be like really like shit, like scum, like I don't know. It seems like a pretty glamorous job, I guess, being a smuggler in that world.
Wait, okay, so no.
But then just to be like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna totally get married to you.
No, she doesn't fall for him until he's I mean, there's obviously some sort of sexual tension there, but she doesn't actually go for him until he's a general. So it's like she fell for Che Guevara, right? Like, of course, like. He's the one leading all of the armies.
Well, I guess,
like, of course she's going to fall for him.
Yeah.
She's emotionally broken. We established that.
But do you ever think
she
about
how... for her brother, and then she falls for a pirate.
And I guess, like, if I witnessed my entire planet being destroyed...
daddy issues.
And it was I mean, I guess if it was my fault that my entire planet was vaporized, like, I would probably... That could really mess you up.
Yeah.
But, so, this started... So, the funny thing is, this entire thought process kind of stemmed from me. I downloaded the Knights of the Old Republic for my iPad the other day because I never played that game.
Sure.
And I was like, it was like on sale. It was Star Wars Day. It was like $1 or something.
Oh, nice.
I was like, cool, I never played this game. So, and I've only played it for about 5 minutes. But I've had to start it twice because I forgot.
It's a great game, I guess.
I start to play. Well, much like the people listening to you, where they're listening to your podcast, that's usually about where I play my iPad game. So about how much time I have.
It's true.
The first time I played it, I forgot to save it, so I had to start over. So I'm like, I'm going to be a smuggler. So you're playing the game, and the soldier comes into the room in the beginning. Have you played it before?
Yes.
Have you played it, Jamison?
Yeah, of course.
So the soldier comes in, and he's like, "Get out of bed, we're under attack." And my favorite is when the guy kind of like. The starship's being blasted, and your character's just like, oh, what? It has to get hit like twice by like 2 like proton torpedoes for the guy to wake up.
It's the smuggler default. You gotta do 3 lines of coke before you go to bed.
I'm just saying, like, if you were asleep on a starship and you got shot by like an explosion happened, I would feel like that would wake you up pretty quickly. I mean, maybe he was hungover. I don't know. So the character wakes up, and you go through and you do your little choices, right? Like he asks you some questions, and it's this soldier, and he's like, blah, blah. And I decided to pick all the like bad smuggler responses. Like, I don't care. I don't want to save that person. I don't want to do your mission. And it was hilarious because all the responses from the guy like just made me realize how ridiculous it is that there's these criminals like the smuggler that's like just part of the rebellion. Because his answers are like, well, I guess we couldn't catch you. because this is the old Republic.
Sure.
So it makes even less sense because he's like, I guess since the Republic couldn't catch you, we would recruit you instead to work on our,
There's a very high chance that you're going to turn on us,
Yeah,
and
like,
probably
it's-
blow up our own ship.
like-
But
this makes no sense. And
I
all
got
the
a
guys,
good feeling about you, Tim.
well, and it's like the same thing in the traditional Star Wars movies. It's like most of the guys that were in the military, like like Admiral Akbar and Mon Mothma and all these people, like they're
Yeah.
beforehand, like they were like senators and generals and stuff in the Republic, I would assume, that have like joined the rebellion. So the whole
Yep.
like smuggler like character and idea, while so important to everything and amazing it is, just the more you think about it, the more unrealistic it becomes. Like that's not how that would work in reality.
That's true.
Like you have an amazing criminal record. I'm gonna make you a general.
it's legit.
Or also, like I've been reading these Star Wars Rebels, like first reader books to my kids. It's like from the Star Wars Rebel show.
Yeah.
And at the end of each one, they say, this is Zeb, and he's a rebel. Or this is whatever, and she's a rebel. And it kind of...
This is Rebel Wilson.
Well, and it's fun.
She's a rebel.
But it's funny reading it. Like, one's about, like, I don't know how to say her name, but it's that character that's like, she wears, like, the bounty hunter outfit. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mandalorian.
Yeah. So she goes around, she like spray paints a TIE fighter and then like blows it up. And they're like, she's a rebel, and it's like kind of all this thing. And I'm like, I'm reading this to my 4-year-old, and like the definition of the word rebel to him and to me, like growing up, is like the rebellion, rebels. Like rebels are cool. Like they're the underdogs and they're fighting for what's right. But then the real world, like it's not like that. Mm-hmm. And you see like all these like stories about these rebellions popping up and all this stuff, and like even if you think back to like even like the like how the USA was founded, like everyone loves like a good rebellion story,
Sure.
but it's just I always wonder like what it's like on the other side, if you will. It's just I don't know. So this is a weird rant, but my point here is like reading these books here. And it's like I'm teaching my kid that like being a rebel and fighting for what's right is cool. But then all the rebellion stories you see in the news or in the articles are always like these terrible people doing all these terrible things. You know what I mean?
Like Al Qaeda.
Yes. I guess we're gonna go there. It's like
you're training little extremists. Maybe what you're doing.
Yeah, it's just like if you
You're a
don't
Star Wars book.
Yeah, it's like if you don't like what's happening with your government, just go blow up break into the airport, spray paint stuff, and blow up the airplanes. Like that's what you should do.
Fantastic.
And then you have the credit scene. That's what happens, right?
Yeah, right,
After something massive like that happens. You were talking about Rebels. Nick Offerman actually came out with a book not too long ago called Relighting the Torch of Freedom with America's Gutsiest Troublemakers. And your little rant about Rebels kind of got me thinking about that in our history, there actually have been a lot of quote-unquote rebels that have done the rebellion-esque type stuff, but for the right purposes and not for the, I'm going to go spray paint this and then I'm going to blow it up and I'm going to...
Well, and I guess...
make it
yeah, and I guess like watching the first 3 Star Wars movies just I felt like as an adult really sort of nerfed the entire Star Wars trilogy for me, where it was just like, this is all just politics the whole time. Like I don't know, like the Emperor and Darth Vader were so terrifying when you watch the original Star Wars movies because you don't know why they're in power. Like you assume that it's just like they've always been there, and then you watch the first 3 movies and you're like, oh, there's this kind of like fucked up traditional politics thing going on, and then this guy just had a scheme to like unseat people, but like he's not really like that happens in history all the time. Do you know what I mean?
I would love to see your guys' take of Gary as a stormtrooper.
There was actually, I remember reading a book about something
Just
like
to
that.
hear his stories about, crap, now I'm on the Death Star, and just how he gets out of being in certain places.
Yeah, I would also love to tell that story, but it's been told, and I can't remember the name of the book. But there was a book about two guys that were like.
Was it a book, or was it a web comic?
It was an actual comic book. I mean, I bought it. It was like it would have been.
Oh, I'm remembering what
99.
you're saying, but for some reason I thought it just came out in little bitty chunks.
Well, because I remember the guys, like, they were stormtroopers on the Death Star, and they did that whole sort of like thing where they were the guys, they were the stormtroopers that like Luke threw the rock at or whatever. You know what I'm saying? When he has to like swing across the thing with Leia.
Yeah.
Like they were those stormtroopers, and then they some reason accidentally leave the Death Star, and then in like another book they were TIE fighter pilots, and they always sort of just accidentally get out of trouble.
And it was two guys, like one blonde and one.
Are they stormtroopers or are they TIE fighter pilots? It's not an interchangeable role. It's not.
Well, it wasn't.
They're not just like, here, dudes, change helmets, and then they put them in a plant. It's the silliest thing I've ever heard. I don't like the story.
Tag and Bink.
That's what it was. I think.
Tag and Bink.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
No, they did do that in that book, though.
No, I know. It's stupid. That book's already stupid. I hate it.
Oh, okay.
You know.
So, I mean, you know what's funny?
Don't buy Tag and Bink. Just buy Henchmen and only Henchmen.
You know what's funny about this conversation
Jamison.
is it's making me realize that, like, one of the reasons I think that I've enjoyed working on Henchmen so much and I love it is because I just remembered one of the things that I loved reading is all those, like, Bantam books, that Star Wars Extended Universe books. That was my example that I was looking for earlier, is there's that whole, like, the X-Wing Rogue Squadron books and all that stuff, like, it's funny, they're written by Michael Stackpole because I remember that, but I can't. Anyway, like all those books, I mean, they did this great job of telling this really cool story around another story that was, like, didn't mess with that, but yet still, it was like there's that beautiful constraint. And that's one of the things I've really enjoyed about working on Henchmen is that you have this sort of constraint of, like, this world. We don't, like I said, we don't have the constraint of it being an existing story we're touching into, but it's still fun to do. Jamison, are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, weird. We, like, lost all that.
It goes in and out.
Oh, okay.
This is the first time we've ever done it with just plugging straight in.
It
So
did occur to me. I don't know how much phone battery I've got over there. We might.
If Jamison just all of a sudden drops out, it's just that is it. There is no more. Well, and that's probably a good segue for where can people find your book? I know here in Indianapolis there are some local comic book shops, Downtown Comics being one of them. If you head downtown,
you can find it anywhere that comic books are sold. You should be able to if your retailer is savvy and likes good books. But they should be able to be any store you go to should be able to order them or at least reorder them through Diamond. I don't know how much longer books will be in stock with them.
Okay,
but they can always order from us directly at henchmancomic.com.
Cool.
Anyone can order from there. We love it when people turn retailers onto us. That helps. So if you do have a local comic book shop that you like to frequent, just tell your comic shop owner this
Sunkiss
can of Sunkiss you gave me.
Generic orange soda.
Brought to you.
They're not sponsoring anything.
The show is brought to you by Orange Soda Can.
There you go. Jamison, are you working on anything right now, buddy?
I am. I'm starting a couple new projects that I'm not at liberty to talk about at the moment.
Wow. One of which being Episode 8 of Star Wars.
Yes, it'll be my rewrite for J.J. Abrams' storyline. It's already gonna disappoint me, so I'm going ahead and rewriting it from my own point of view right now.
We've got a few ideas we've been throwing around. I don't know. I think we set kind of a deadline on Henchmen to say, like, let's get through issue 6. Let's do this story arc and let's have a finishing point. So we didn't want to be that independent book that was published that got canceled. We didn't want to be the show that got canceled. And it's cool because what it's enabled us to do now is say, okay, we got this done. Now let's talk about some different ideas. And Jamison and I have got a text thread from the last few days of talking about all sorts of stuff. But to finish your where can you get Henchmen question.
Oh yeah.
We love if people if you've got a retailer that you like to go to, ask them to order the book and, tell them they can order it from us directly. I love sending books to retailers and meeting new retailers. I love getting copies of the books in there so that they can sell them as well. We're working on a little project right now. Now that we have copies of all of the books, Ryan and Jamison are both going to be in town for Gen Con. So we're going to be doing a couple signings here locally at Downtown Comics and then one at All Yeah Comics in Muncie.
Oh, cool.
So that's the Wednesday before Gen Con. Jamison, I just texted you the date the other day. Do you remember what it was? July...
Yeah.
Do you have it handy? July 29th, I think?
For Gen Con?
It is
the Wednesday before.
The 29th, yeah.
Okay, July
okay.
29th.
Yeah,
We're doing 2 signings. We'll actually be at All Yeah Comics earlier in the day, kind of in the mid-afternoon, and then we'll be at Downtown Comics that evening. So it's
Cool.
the Wednesday before Gen Con. A lot of people should be in town. Ryan also is the artist on Heroes Wanted, which is a board game that from Action Phase Games, board game that we've worked on. And he'll be in town for Gen Con for a day or so.
Cool.
Hanging out and signing copies of that. The new expansion will be out. So some of the characters from Henchmen make some cameos in Heroes Wanted, in the Champions and Masterminds expansion, and then in the new expansion, Stuff of Legend. So yeah, we'll be in town then. I think one of the things we're going to be doing is also working on sort of a special limited edition little package of books, and we're going to have Ryan do some custom artwork and be selling that on our website and maybe at some shows. So
A little exploitation of Ryan never hurt anybody.
no, he's from Saskatoon, so I gotta work him when he gets into town, right? But yeah, so we'll have some nice new like kind of packages there. We're also working on putting together a trade paperback that'll be in full color. And I think we're going to actually go back to our roots and go to Kickstarter on that. So this whole project, the first issue came out of Kickstarter. James and I, we talked about doing a web comic or digital comic and decided to see if we could print it, and we raised some money, enough to get the book printed and to hire Dave Dorman to do our cover art, which Dave, if you're not familiar with his work, this is a very Star Wars-centric conversation. Dave, I was a big fan of Dave's because he did, he's a just well-renowned Star Wars artist and painter. Did all the Dark Horse covers in the 90s and continues just to make some of the most amazing work. He just posted this amazing Archie cover he did to his Facebook page
Nice.
recently. It's really cool. But so we were able, to get that started and turn it into a little studio / self-publishing kind of company. So we're gonna go back to Kickstarter for that, raise some money, we want to make like a nice, solid sort of like permanent bookshelf book that's got full color. May hopefully get some other artists to do some pinups in there. We may actually do some additional sort of limited story that's only in the trade.
Yeah.
Some additional content, but we should be doing that shortly. We haven't really set a date yet on doing the Kickstarter for that, but I would imagine like late this summer, maybe early fall. We'll be doing that.
And hopefully the thing that we are working on that I'm gonna jump off of Jamison's heels here and say, unfortunately, I can't divulge too much information as to what it is right now either, but possibly that will help with your Kickstarter, and we'll have some fun with this new little thing that we're working on.
The show will sell. I wouldn't even need to go to PopCon.
No, I wouldn't. I would rely purely on this show to sell you out of every book that you've got,
Yes,
and then Jamison should be able to live the rest of his life on autographs only.
Right.
And you should be good. You should be good.
Perfect.
So if that doesn't work out, though, you can send any complaint that you have to Tony at Tony Jamison is he's not really my co-host. We're co-hosts together on this show, and on the rare occasions, unfortunately, we're not able to sit down together. This was just one of those times where he had some other things going on,
he's somewhere right now regretting this.
I don't know, because what he's got going on right now is pretty legit. I'll just tell you guys right now. He's seen Jurassic World, but he's seen it.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait, that is clearly legit.
Well, hang on. It's the premiere. It's the premiere, and it's with his really good. Today's his really good buddy's birthday.
Okay.
So it's like a combination of several different things that cause that to happen.
Like the world premiere? Like, is he like hanging out with Chris Pratt right now?
Yeah, that's his good buddy.
Yeah.
That is his good
He's
buddy.
at Chinese theater.
And instead of other people, it's just other dinosaurs that are watching the movie with him. So
That actually would be amazing.
Yeah.
With 3D.
Like this is the Jurassic World premiere of Jurassic World. Mm-hmm. It's just the dinosaurs. I love this
they're
idea.
just going to have a whole bunch of dinosaurs, but they're going to give them names of like movie critics.
I'm looking
so it
forward
makes
to
it
I'm
funny.
looking forward to the world in the future. What was that movie with Bruce Willis where everybody like walked around in robots? What was that?
Everybody was robots.
Yeah, it was.
I robot.
No, Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis.
Sur-
Oh, shoot.
Surrogate.
Yeah. Where they
So I'm
they
looking-
stayed in their little bed
Yeah.
thing and then they walked around. Yeah.
So I think what the reality of that future is not like that. I think what it is going to be everyone plugged in at their home, and they'll be walking around in a world that will be like Minecraft or something like that. Where it'll be a totally fictional world that everyone will be walking around.
I would
in.
not walk around in a Minecraft world.
Not necessarily Minecraft, but I'm using that as kind of an extreme example.
It's a poor example though because now I have
well,
this
my
visual
point
of
is
giant bricks that I don't want to have.
So in that movie, like everyone walked around a robot. In the real world, they were like they were in a virtual body in a real world.
Yeah.
I think that everyone will be in a virtual body in a virtual world, and they'll go see movies about the real world. And they'll sit next to dinosaurs in their virtual world. This will happen.
So Tony's really on the cusp of this
Yes.
whole
oh, man, I'm
change.
knocking your microphone over. Sorry
You're
about
good. So that's why Tony's not here. It's rare that he misses big interviews like this because I know that he actually
that.
connected.
Big interview.
Yeah. Well, when egos get to the point where it gets classified as big, then we call those big interviews. Oh.
Well, Jamison is on the phone.
Oh shoot! I thought he was off the phone.
Thought my battery died.
Hang up. Click. No.
What happened?
What happened? He's like, I'm eating chicken pot pie over here.
So I'm trying to convince Jamison to write a new story about his adventures in Kazakhstan. So Jamison's moving to, did I say that right? Kazakhstan in
Yeah, Kazakhstan.
in a
The
few
country.
in a few months.
Why are you moving to Kazakhstan?
To actually fight in a rebel army to free. No, I'm just joking.
Gather material.
There's a dark emperor that lives in Kazakhstan, and he has a sidekick that has a laser sword, and they want me to go and smuggle cocaine for their end of that. That's that joke. So I'm going there to teach English.
Oh, nice. I have a friend that does that in Japan.
That's funny. I have a friend that speaks English.
I wish I had one of those. That would be nice.
I also have friends who've taught English in Japan.
It'd just be nice to have friends.
Yes.
You're way ahead of everybody else right there. Anyway, so check them out at henchman.com.
Henchmancomic.com.
Henchmancomic.com. Jamison, do you have anything that you want to throw out there? Do you have a website like HanShotSecond.com?
I should get a website. This is a true story. I was a stand-up comedian for a while, for quite a time, and I was going to register the domain JamisonRaymond.com, and I went to see if it was available, and it was not. It's some d-bag that lives in Tampa that sells timeshares.
Oh, is it still up?
It's just those fuzzy kangaroo hats. Like they look like Gilligan's hat, but they're like black fur. Does it make any sense?
No.
Okay. Like his profile picture is him wearing one of those, and has a ridiculously thick gold chain on, like a gold rope.
I'm sure he's a listener of this show.
Well,
not
he needs
anymore.
to get off that domain. Is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, he needs to get off that domain. Is what I'm trying to say. So, my website is pending the release of the domain from some d-bag in Tampa whenever he's done selling timeshares.
Your website is pending that man's death.
Correct.
You can follow Jamison on Twitter at JJ Raygun and
JJ Raygun
me
is my Twitter handle.
Brian Wyrick.
JamisonRaymond.com. Available.
It says it's available. Let me see how you spelled that.
JamisonRaymond.
Oh man, Jamison.
Score.
And I'm buying it right
moment
now.
has
And I will
happened.
gladly sell this to you for $427,000.
It's a bit pricey.
Well,
$426,000.
Have you ever tried to buy a domain?
Yeah, I own several.
But no, I mean from like someone who's squatting one.
Oh,
of,
no.
of value.
I could care less about
They're
that.
always interesting conversations.
Really?
Oh yeah, I tried to make an offer to someone once for a domain, and his response to me was, "This is clearly a 7-figure domain name," and I was like, 7 figures?
Wow. Can I ask what the domain was?
I don't remember. It was a single word domain, but it was I don't remember what it was. It was something for work. Yeah, because that's what is that? 7 figures is.
That's $1 million. That's the $1 million
Millions?
mark. Yeah.
See, I want to say that. I want to say that he maybe said.
Internet.com.
I want to say that he may have said 8 because I wanted to say that it was like that ridiculous. Like whatever number he threw out, I remember being like, "Are you shitting me, man? This is like I'm not going to spend that much money on a domain name unless it comes with a profitable business attached to it."
Well, it depends on how. I mean, if it was something like fart.com, then I don't think that was a $7 million domain. But if you had something, I don't know, like shoe.com, you
But I'm
probably
saying-
would have. That would be lucrative.
Maybe. But I mean-
Shoe.com? If so, and you sold that to a like Payless or whatever?
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, as a business purchasing that domain, like, you have to really have a reason to get that.
Oh,
My
yeah.
point is that if you're Payless Shoes, like, people already know who you are.
True.
So, like, buying shoe.com really isn't going to help you very much unless you really have.
Well, that's true.
It's like there's a story about
Were you trying to buy IndianapolisColts.com?
just Colts.com.
Oh, well.
I was like, I'll trade you something for my vast portfolio of other random domain names I've registered.
My parents have lots of artwork that you could probably put up in your house.
Fantastic idea. There was a story though once about this guy that registered a domain name of a hotel. I'm sure you can look this up, and I'm probably going to botch this story, but it was he registered the domain. It was the name of a hotel that was going in Las Vegas or something. I don't know, whatever city. This is now the point of urban legend. You could just replace all these. It was a Hilton. It was a Wyndham. It was a whatever with whatever city you want. But this guy had registered the domain, and the company reached out to him to purchase the domain. They said, "Hey, we want to buy like superradomni.com or whatever the hell it was." And the guy's like, "No." And they're like, "We'll give you like $200,000 or $100,000 or whatever." And the guy's like, "No, man, I want more money. I want $1 million. I want whatever." And they just renamed the hotel. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of the thing. It's like, you know, I don't know if this guy that owned this domain would have, like, if he gets offers every day for this domain.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that like it's still available for sale and it had been registered for some time leads me to believe that like he doesn't get offers like what he's asking me for. You know, I just feel like if maybe he's getting offers all the time, but if he's always responding with that, like, yeah, he still hasn't sold it. So like no one's going to pay that. So maybe if you want to sell it, you should address.
I wonder
the
how long
market.
he's had it though. If he's only had it for a year or two.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if he paid $7 million for it, maybe. It's just my point is like, you know what I did when the guy told me how much he wanted for the domain?
Laughed and hung up.
Named the company something else.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's what I did. That's exactly what we did. We had there was a work project, and we had a software product we were working on, and we had a cool name for it. And we're like, maybe we can get this domain. They're like, no. I'm like, let's go to the next one on the list. We'll call it that. Done.
Okay, that works.
That domain's available.
Well, by the time this episode goes out, JamisonRaymond.com might be available. If that's not available, you can always check out JamisonRaymond.net, .org, or .info. He's able to get all of those and save 67% of the good fine people from GoDaddy, they are
Also
not sponsoring
not a
this
sponsor
episode.
of this podcast.
Exactly. Or some possible other options, JamisonRaymondBox.com, JamisonRaymondApp.com, JamisonRaymond.us, or the ever-popular JamisonRaymond.biz, which if he acts now, he can save $2 extra.
$2 extra.
I have like a weird thing where I would never pick a domain that didn't have .com.
Nope,
Like I have to do.
I'm right there with
Like
you.
you don't want to be like, especially when you're branding yourself, you don't want to be the .biz guy. Like what are you, Kmart? Like that's Kmart comes to less. It's awful. Like why would you
have
ever
a lot
want to
of
do that?
You can have a lot of fun though with the extensions if you get creative.
Some of the extensions sound pretty cool. Like if they ever made like a .podcast, that would make sense for like our shows.
Yeah.
Because that would give us flexibility in purchasing additional
I
ones
just think
that
we should
would
just go back to AOL keywords.
Well, if that's the case, then I'm going back to Friendster. So, and I'm only going to promote through Friendster, and and then MySpace.
Yeah.
But I'm only going to have a top 4. I'm never going to allow top 8.
Was it top 8?
Yeah, I was top 8.
That's a random number.
Han Solo would be on top 8 probably.
We'll be at PopCon. Jameson
So are
won't.
we.
I will be there.
Anybody
and
joining you, or is it just you again?
I have an artist alley table. It's I actually was just sent it's like 534 or something. I table that.
I think we're 341.
And then Action Phase Games will be right across from me, so I will have my hands in everything.
Hey guys, what's the date for Indie PopCon?
June 26th, 27th, and 28th. It's the last weekend of June.
Do you want to come to PopCon, Jameson?
I would, but I've told myself I'm not coming back to Kansas ever again once I leave. So,
so we will see you at Indie PopCon.
So now is a good time to leave. What else you got going on?
If I could fly back to Indy for cheap, I would go.
Why don't you just move back to Indy?
Why don't you just
I'm going
Craigslist
to
drive?
in July.
Well,
I'm
it's
going
right
to in July.
But this is the like.
I like how this show is like evolved from.
It's just a conference call with Jameson.
Yeah,
Now, Jameson and I haven't talked in a
Yeah.
couple days.
And not even a business call, just how to live my life.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, PopCon is like ends at the beginning of July. I mean, it's June 29th is the last day, so just get your shit together and get out here.
Yeah, bum out for a couple days.
We can have this incredibly boring conversation off air.
No. I like the idea. We're actually going to use this to start a new show for the Amalgam Podcast Network called
Snorefest. It's a podcast to help people go to sleep.
Conference calls with
Corporate conference.
Jameson defends his bad life decisions.
We just need a dog barking in the background.
.uk.biz.
.uk.biz. .netspace.
What's that Saturday Night Live bit? The .fart or whatever.
Oh, I have no idea.
It's some Saturday Night Live.
Penis.fart.
There it is. There it is. I knew we'd find it.
All right. Well, and
this is digressing poorly, but
with
it's been a lot of
that
fun.
very random Saturday Night Live, Jameson, thank you for taking some time out of your night, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, you're very welcome, Brian. Appreciate you stopping in
Yeah.
and chatting with me for a little bit.
I've got to see
The inner workings.
Geek Stuff HQ.
The temporary until we move to the new offices.
You've got Huey Lewis and the News on vinyl.
I do. It's right up there
amazing.
behind me. So, all right, cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, Tony's not here to sign us off. You should do it.
What's he do?
So at the end of every show, he goes "Pachoo," and that's the end of it. So now you need to do that.
Pachoo. Okay.
Yeah, that'll be okay.
Is that okay? You want me to do it again? Or we make a different sound?
Yeah, make your own sound.
Oh man, what's that? Have to be like a laser sound?
Yeah, but I'm gonna give you a countdown, and you have to do it. Ready?
Wait,
ready?
Well, no,
3,
I'm not ready.
2, 1. Okay, that works.
Come on. What was that look